We're live, okay.
All right, we're live
Welcome,
now.
everyone. Let's see here, first order of business here, let's do a roll call. Bill? Present. Dennis?
Here.
Anton?
Present.
Myself, present, we have a quorum. Can I get a motion to move, approve the minutes of June 4th?
Just had a follow-up question on the
Sure.
minutes. It's my own memory probably on this, the Altech steel site. There was going to be some kind of environmental review done before the acquisition, if we approved the acquisition.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Yep.
Our counsel, Tom Owens and Clayton, are going to talk about that a little bit later.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
So moved.
Okay, can I get a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved, great. CFO report, Amy.
Good evening, everyone. I'll start with the statement of financial position. Not too much to report. Cash balance is 4.3 million. And as Bill pointed out, we have a CD maturing today, so I've reached out to Matt at M&T to see what the rates are for going forward for that. I'll move on to the budget first actuals. Total revenue year-to-date June is 37,000, budgeted 225,000. We did receive the admin fee from Atlas Copco in July. So next month, that actuals number will be favorable to
What was
budget.
that fee?
323,000 and change.
Yes.
Total expenses year-to-date are 156,000 compared to a budgeted amount of 236,000, leaving us net loss of 118,000 versus a budgeted loss of 11,000. But again, that will look a lot better next month. Does anyone have any questions?
No, but Dennis did have a point just to maybe correct an error that was on the IDA draft budget.
Yes, that's for the Altech Steel site
Okay.
update, so we were gonna go over that when Clayton gave
Okay.
his report.
Very good. Any other questions for Amy? Will we get a motion to approve the financials?
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. Great. CEO report, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd first like to introduce some of our colleagues from Plug Power who are here to talk a little bit about an update at the company. Some interesting things happening. Today we have Doug McLean from Plug Power and Matt Gratton who will be talking a little bit about the community benefit agreements and some of the other developments at the company. So
Welcome.
I think we've got some slides up here that, so gentlemen, the floor is yours.
All right. Okay, if we stand.
Absolutely. Well,
Do you want to, do we have to go up?
Should they stay
I can
here?
just
or-
let you know and I can slide through.
Okay, yeah.
No, Internet, for the people to see that.
Camera.
The cameras, do they
Yeah.
need to be up here or can they see them over there?
No, you need to, stand up.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Will do. All right, yeah, you can just go to the next slide. So, thanks everyone for your time. It's been a bit since I've been in here. When we were going through our original ID application, I've attended a bunch of these meetings, so it's good to be back and kind of give an update on where we are. Again, my name's Doug McLean. I'm Senior Director of Global Infrastructure. I'm in charge of all of our capital region facilities, all of our CapEx projects, and then all of our real estate globally. And then with me today is my colleague, Matt Gratton. Matt, you want to give yourself an intro?
Hello, everyone. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know. So as Doug said, pleasure to be here. I'm Director of Community and Workforce Development. Work mostly around the strategy in terms of how we design our workforce development components, working with our talent acquisition and talent management teams. And then I also oversee all of our community benefit planning work nationally. Thank you.
Next slide. So this slide here, I just wanted to provide an update of our Albany County operations. As you all know, Vista Development, our new facility, now we're in year 3. Last year, July last year, we officially made that our new headquarters. And we are in the process of moving all of our operations here in the capital region to Vista. Our previous home, 968 Albany Shaker Road, we moved all of our manufacturing staff and our support staff to Vista. There is some R&D activities going. For those who aren't familiar with that campus, it is 3 buildings. We have Plug's lease for that facility is until 2032, but we actually have put some sublease agreements together. So I think it's important to note that we're not leaving empty buildings behind in our efforts. So Building 2 is currently Crane Stationary. They are doing their tenant fit up in that facility right now. And then New York, and they have 83 employees. And then New York State.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second. You know, but for Plug Power and this Crane Stationery, this is a company that was owned by Mobile Paper, and they do very high-end engraving of wedding invitations, but very, very high-end. And there was a chance of that company moving back to Massachusetts because the Crane family, which was, I think, the second or third oldest company in America. They used to be the folks that made the paper upon which our currency was printed. They sold that off, but they stayed in us. They were looking to get them back to Massachusetts, and Plug was very helpful in making arrangements and putting a deal together to get Crane Stationery out of the Mobile Paper building to there instead of out to Massachusetts. You all know Mobile Paper was sold to a European private equity firm called Fredrigoni. And so again, Plug was very helpful in making that transaction happen for us and keeping that company over the counter. Sorry.
They have one of the pieces, just a side note, one of the printers that they use, there's only 2 of them that exist in the world. One is here in Albany County, the other one is overseas, I believe in London. And they do the, Cartier boxes, that's the type of high-end stuff that they do. So they're into Building 2, they're doing their tenant fit up, they're really great people there. The New York State actually just moved into the facility in Building 1, that's our office complex, that's where our office was. New York State, one of their offices had a sprinkler leak, damages some floors, so they had to relocate some people while they were doing that. So they actually moved in and signed a short-term lease, and then we have a long-term lease with them that'll begin in September. That actually extends, it's a 10-year lease, so it extends beyond Plug's commitment. So that's our 968. 8 British American Boulevard, we had some additional office space over there. Actually, last year we had subleased the second floor of that facility to Solitude Solar. So we have a sublease agreement with them. We have another insurance company whose sublease, I just saw final draft today, so they're planning on starting in September as well. So again, we're backfilling those empty spaces. So, and we do have an LOI for the third. There's 3 different areas the way we broke up. That building is 50,000 square feet, 968 is 140,000 square feet. On the warehousing end, we had a small warehouse, is about 37,000 square feet in Clifton Park. We actually did an early termination agreement for that facility, and we have relocated those to the Gilderland Industrial Park. So in January, we signed a new lease for Building 8. That's 130,000 square feet, and right now, we just signed last month an agreement for Building 18, and that's another 120,000 square feet. We're hopeful that we could start phasing moving in here by the end of the month. And that site there with our operations at Vista just offers so much more efficiencies there that we're able to get back and forth. So that kind of just gives you a summary of where we are, in Albany County and how our footprint, it gives us a nice spot on where we are. So if you go to the next slide, I'll turn it over to Matt and you can talk some of his workforce.
So obviously key to what we want to be able to continue to strive for is the development of jobs. And while we've been going through the restructuring that we've gone through recently, we really are using this time to sit down and think about how we're going to structure our workforce development moving forward as we're going to try to develop the talent associated with that. So we have a brand new program that we've worked in collaboration with Capital Region BOCES on, and I see the picture of the new CTE center there, and as many of you know, they're building a second extension onto that CTE center across the street from that. And that's where this new program will be called. It's called Emerging Technologies, and it's for high school seniors. It'll have a concentration in either semiconductor, that's in partnership with New York Creates, or in hydrogen fuel cell technology that obviously we've worked with them on. So we've been developing this for about 2 years in the design of the program and looking at the curriculum and the content. Been working on the agreements, the MOU, and data sharing agreements so that we could have an instructor come in and really said, you can't find hydrogen fuel cell instructors that just don't exist because of the uniqueness of what we do. So we have to train them up, and we've had one of their instructors over to Vista, actually going through some of our field service training technicians, sitting right alongside some of our field service technicians to be able to do that. So we're very excited. This program's scheduled to start this fall. And this will really be kind of the prime pathway that we're going to try to encourage students, if they want to pursue employment with Plug, to look into through the career and technical education route. Next slide, please. Just want to highlight a couple of the things that we have. Question.
Ask a quick question on
Sure.
that. Is that training, does that, like you said, they'd be able to become field service reps for you and do other things? Could it also apply to other companies too? Or is it totally focused on Plug Power's technology?
It could. I mean, I will state that it's going to have a lot of emphasis on, it'll have about 200 to 300 hours of hydrogen fuel cell components. That's mostly going to, we're looking at decommissioned equipment to donate. And a lot of that equipment is kind of customized to how we develop our fuel cell technology. There's not a lot of players regionally or locally in the game. So if they wanted to branch out and move somewhere, they could be a field service technician for some of our customers. There are other hydrogen companies, and yes, I mean, it's providing enough of the base foundation, the safety and the quality standards, but to really understand the basics of how hydrogen and fuel cell technologies work is really what we're trying to do. So that when they come to us, they're a little bit, they're 1 or 2 steps ahead of us, rather than coming in right off the street and us having to train them as a piece of that. So I guess in a roundabout way, the answer is yes, they certainly could, but there's so few other competitors unless they relocate it somewhere.
Do you think you have the capacity to take the full numbers that come out of that program? Like, is that going to provide more than you need, what you need, or less than you need?
We think we should be able to, yes. I mean, it's starting very small with 5 direct enrolled students, and then there's 5 additional seniors this year in their advanced manufacturing program that they're going to be allowing to take some of the coursework for this. And again, these students will be able to choose either semiconductor or hydrogen fuel cell. So they can land New York Creates, Global Foundries, us. It really gives them options associated with that. So we're starting small. We think we can absolutely, commit to the students that do come out of that. They're going to come over, do a work-based learning internship in the spring, and then we'll evaluate based on that and see if we want to bring them into our registered apprenticeship program, which we do have.
Thank you. That's okay.
Any other questions on that? Just a couple of quick examples of some of the support that we've been doing through our community relations group. So Plug does allocate a small grant program where community organizations, nonprofits can submit applications to us, and we are supporting initiatives in the community. Top right is a picture of one of our technicians working with students on a Saturday morning at the Ravenna Innovation Station. And that's a little hydrogen fuel cell car there that the little young girl is working on, and he's showing the aspects of how, and the students got to build those cars, and he's volunteering his time on a Saturday to help those students understand the basics and really start to get. That's our biggest challenge is in Plug is really getting more, we're trying to bring hydrogen more to the forefront of the renewable energy discussion. We've hosted the Tech Valley High School STEM summer camp. That was last summer. I see the picture bottom right there with all the students that came for summer camp. We had them there for a day. They worked with similar hydrogen cars. And we gave them a tour of the facility. This past winter, we also partnered with CEG and the North Albany Middle School to support the What's So Cool About Manufacturing event that CEG had, which was a really well well done, fun event for students got to come into manufacturing facilities and actually film and shoot and explore careers in manufacturing, and they got to interview actually our COO and a few of our other executive leadership. And then it was a competition. The schools all competed against each other and had a voting competition. So just to give you an idea of some of the things that we're doing specifically with organizations within Albany County. Next slide, please. So for this year, what we built into our community benefit plan agreement with the county, I want to highlight two particular proposed milestones and initiatives. We are going to be piloting a partnership with SUNY Schenectady Community College to hold 4 pop-up manufacturing career exploration events. And this will utilize SUNY Schenectady's new mobile training labs. So that lab that you see in the top 2 pictures there actually has manufacturing training equipment. It has a cobot in it. It has lockout, tagout panels, and a whole series of other different electrical components that individuals might see on a manufacturing floor, and obviously in a scaled down, smaller environment. What we want to do is bring this out into the community, bring it to the south end and at the Capital South Campus Center through Hudson Valley South, to Cohoes, Waterville, Arbor Hill. We want to work with the county to see if there's other locations where we can do this, and also invite and bring in other Albany County manufacturers, and really expose young kids and parents to what is involved and what is entailed to actually work in a manufacturing environment. We'll also have some virtual reality equipment there so that they can kind of be able to visualize what some of the manufacturing careers look like. Hopefully that wets the whistle and we see if any of them are interested in pursuing employment with us. And then we're also going to be working with the high schools throughout the county to begin and start a program, an international program called the H2 Grand Prix. If you're familiar with the first robotics competition, this is very similar to that, but it's the world's largest hydrogen competition where students build, design, and race a 110 scale radio-controlled car that's actually powered by a hydrogen fuel cell. And the H2 Grand Prix is a large nonprofit that does a wonderful job of organizing race events, and we want to be able to try to bring one of these events here to the capital region, and what better place to do it than in the county. So I think that covers most of my slides. Let me see if we go back to Doug. Any questions on those milestones? No, that's just some of what we're trying to do from a workforce and community side. I'm going to turn it back over to Doug for this slide.
So on the 4th, there was some recent legislation that you may have heard about. Specifically in that legislation, there was some pretty favorable policies geared towards hydrogen. And candidly, at the beginning of the year and even towards the 4th quarter of last year with the administration, there was, and Plug was preparing for a doom and gloom scenario. And even as soon as a couple of weeks ago, our government affairs team had to do some heavy duty work, voicing our concerns to ensure that policies were, we'll say is corrected, but at least were favorable for hydrogen. And they were, to their credit, and we had an employee or all employee meeting yesterday. To their credit, they were successful in doing that. So basically, the long story short, the tax credits that were set to sunset were actually even extended to a longer period of time, and that's huge for Plug, because that's both Plug and our customers, so the Amazons and the Walmarts, and those are big customers. That allows them to make long-term plans. We're not planning for 6 months now. We have an extension out to 2028, and then even on the ITC, which was restored, it goes out to 2032. So it basically gives us some longevity in our planning. It was scary at point, but I think that the point we're just making is that it's, we're nimble, and what could have been, we were preparing for the worst case scenario, and we honestly got the best case scenario. So with that, we've already seen some changes. We've seen some orders, and we're preparing almost to ramp up again. So I just wanted to make that point. The next slide is kind of is our job summary. For this year, per the agreement, Plug is committed to 1,335 jobs. There is an 80% threshold, which is the 1068 number, full-time equivalent jobs. So for quarters 1 and 2, Plug was tracking right on above the 80, we're at 86%. Basically what I did is I ran our numbers for first and second quarter, and then I pulled some early numbers for Q3 to see where we were tracking. So we were good first and second quarter. Early third quarter, we dropped a little bit. As you know, there was our news. We had our WARN Act. We had some layoffs. And actually from our initial filing to when we actually enacted the WARN, we actually reduced our number. That wasn't as, didn't make as much media as the original numbers that went out, but we did actually bring some people back that were on the originally planned for the WARN Act. I think that starts going to as we're planning to build to our demand. We also have, we did not include any of our contracted work yet in these numbers. These are, again, just strictly Plug numbers, just showing you how our plans are to get there and make sure that we're able to meet that 1335, or at least within the threshold. So we are, as I mentioned earlier, with our move from 968 and moving our labs, that's 30 years of history in there. So we're building out new labs in Vista, regenerative load banks, and to allow us to continue our work and improve our products and our reliability. So there is quite a bit of electrical and mechanical work that's going on and taking place inside Vista. We have outside contractors for that. We have janitorial services, and we are right now, when we built the facility, we had allocated space for a future build out of the kitchen. And so right now we're going through the RFP process and working for a food service provider. So we'll actually have on-campus food. So again, once we start bringing some of those outside services in, again, I think those are all numbers that'll work to our job creation. We have brought folks back who, as I said, we reduced our number from our WARN, and we actually have hired people who were laid off. We've actually hired them back. So those numbers are continuing. We currently have open positions at Vista. I think we have right now, Plug has, if you look at our website, I think there's 94 open positions. Not all of them are in the area, but there are certainly some at Vista. So those are out there. And then, as I just mentioned, with the tax credit developments, Q4 is always our busiest time of year. If you think about with Amazon and Walmart, and you think about Black Friday and holiday shopping and all that stuff, that's when all those warehouses are ramping up full speed. And that's where we have to make sure that we're able to support them so that they don't have any downtime, because that's the key. That's our selling point. Not only is it the green, but it's also the efficiencies that we're able to provide. So that's our path forward for the end of the year. I think we meet pretty regularly on this. I think we're all pretty confident that we have that path, and I'm happy to share that with you guys today. That's our piece. I think the last one is if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. But again, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate the partnership.
Thank you very much. That was great. Just a quick one on the number there. Was that 86%? Was it 86% of the number or the threshold?
86% of 1335.
Oh, the 1335.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes.
And, hey, best of luck to you.
Right. Yeah.
We're rooting for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions?
Just, is there any action required on the part of the IDA to grant a waiver, or, I'm not sure what the fallback agreement says.
There is nothing that's required, Bill, but, certainly, all of this is within your purview as a board. I just kind of add, kind of following on to Mike's comment, Plug has been overly transparent and cooperative with us. They haven't tried to, do creative number counting. They've been right up out front with this, and as those of us who've been in business know, you've got ups and downs, and you've got to size the business to your market and to the environment in which you operate. And that's, I think, what's happened with Plug. They got a kind of a little bit of a bluebird with this federal legislation that gave them some additional runway. And like Mike says, you just got to hang in there, and
What is the testing period, Council? We have
It's for the year.
it's for the year, so this is calendar year 2024. comes in, they're not in compliance, so what?
Right, so the agreement that's referred to there is the Uniform Agency Project Agreement. As stated on the slide, it's 80% of the number.
Yep.
So if Plug was unable to meet the 80% threshold, we built flexibility into that document so it doesn't automatically trigger a recapture or default under any of the agreements. It's kind of set up so Plug comes in just like we did tonight, describe what's happening, and lets the ID make an informed decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that decision need to be made tonight, or?
No, because they made it for 2024.
Yeah.
You would need to look at it for the year
Yeah.
2025.
They're on track right now, their current average is 80%, so.
Right.
So the question would be that is, do you think that the way you're tracking this out for 2025,
Correct.
is there some type of an amendment that would be requested from Plug to the IDA, or do you think you're going to be able to, comply with those threshold requirements?
So right now, based on kind of the bullet points under there, there's some new projects that came up where we have some additional hiring exercises coming in the next 2 months.
Mhm.
I think we'll continue to track.
Okay. Why don't you just think about
Yes.
that as you're progressing through the year and looking at your numbers? If you think an amendment is going to be needed for whatever those reasons may be with a plan,
Yep.
right, to get back into compliance, let us know, and the board will certainly, try to,
Appreciate
vote, in favor of, such an amendment,
For sure.
under those circumstances.
Yep.
Okay?
I'll just add that I don't think we can stress enough the importance of what was passed federally, because that certainly does solve a lot of issues and gives many of our customers a lot of predictability. And we're already starting to hear that. I mean, we're not seeing solid number, but we're seeing interest in new units and things like that. So that is really important to the point that at this point, yeah, probably not, but we monitor this weekly.
Okay. Well, listen, we want to be good partners, but, communication flow is important, so, just keep us abreast of what's happening.
Thank you.
Okay?
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to add that, again, on the topic of communication, CEO Andy Marsh reached out and has spoken to County Executive McCoy about this and went through a lot of the same information. So there's really been a great communication channel between the county, not only at the staff level with us and now with you, but at the higher levels with the county.
Right. Thank you. Again, any other questions for Plug? Okay. What else do you have on the docket here, Kevin? Thank you.
Yeah, one of the guys, you're welcome to stay or leave as you see fit. Yeah, one other thing, apropos to Bill's comments a little bit earlier, great job. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
I appreciate, yeah, well, I was gonna say, that's, it's favorable.
25% bump tonight.
Exactly.
Good.
Bill mentioned a little bit earlier in the meeting, some questions about the Altech Steel site. We would like to give you a brief update on where we are with this. This is, again, in our opinion, the single best industrial site that we had. And we did get some good news, which I'll let Tom Owens, who's on the phone, and Clayton, if you could come up and stand up here, because I don't think you can see anybody. Clayton, you gotta stand up here.
Stand or sit,
Or
feel free to
sit.
sit down.
So, take it, Tom, Clayton, take it away.
Yeah, Clayton, I'll lead off very quickly. And this has been a team effort. Chris Canada and I have been working the last sort of 2 weeks together on this stuff since the last board meeting. If you remember from the last board meeting, this was 2 parcels of property located in the town of Colony that were subject to a judgment of foreclosure from the county. And then the idea was they were going to assign that right to take title. They were going to assign that right to the Alliance. And then for a variety of reasons related to real property taxes, the Alliance determined it was determined between the Alliance and the county that was not a smart move. So we shifted gears and then determined that the IDA was a better recipient of these two parcels. So, and again, just reviewing what we talked about last week, the Alliance had worked out a release of liability because there is existing environmental contamination on the site. So we left with the charge from the board. And again, I represent the council, but I've been working on this with Chris, and he's very well aware of this. He could say the same thing I am today. But so he and I and our environmental counsel, Dean Summer, worked with DEC. We now have a red-lined agreement that I know Chris is sort of in the final stages of reviewing from your perspective, to basically make sure that the IDA is added to receive all of the environmental liability protections and releases that the Alliance had been targeted to receive when the Alliance was going to be the party receiving the property. So that is in process. We've been in touch with the DEC headquarters counsel, Mike Murphy. They're fully on board. They understand what's going on. So, sometime soon, once Chris is okay with it, we'll get, and to be fair to Chris, he just got it this week. He'll get that over to us and it'll get over to DEC, and then that will proceed. And your resolution last month authorized Kevin to move forward on that, so that will continue to move forward. And then the second part of this was to actually, once that's lined up, once that's executed, then the county and you would be in a position to actually make the title transfer occur. Obviously, we don't want to do that until the environmental liability is addressed. So Chris and I reached out to Greg Rudnick at the county, who's sort of the county attorney staff member who deals with all the foreclosure stuff. There had been a county resolution in both 20, I think it was 20, and then 23. There were, in 20, these two parcels were going to be transferred to a private entity. Those plans, I think, disappeared or went away, which sometimes happens. This is a challenging property. And then the second resolution was to authorize the county to transfer the property to the Alliance. So Chris and I drafted a new resolution. That'll go over to the county, I think as soon as tomorrow. I know Clayton's got it now. That will be a new resolution that the county will review and then make whatever changes they need to make. And if they so choose to pass it, the legislature, that would then authorize the transfer of the property to the IDA. So that would at least set it up, give the tax enforcement official the authority, again, and if the legislature chooses to pass this other new resolution, and that will take a period of time. I'm sure people in the room, Dennis, I see you, that are a lot better at the timing on how this works. But sometime maybe in some period of time, the county legislature will consider and hopefully pass that, and then that would allow the property to be transferred, or at least be set up for the county to take the administrative steps to get the title in the IDA's name. So that's sort of a general factual sort of a status update. And like I said, I've been working with Chris sort of hand in hand with Clayton on this the last month, and we're open to any questions you might have.
Chris, there was one question I had. It was a follow-up, was the moving the property in an LLC underneath the IDA. Is that a feasible structure or not?
We did talk about that. Tom, I don't know if you have any initial thoughts on that, but moving it to an LLC, I guess, the idea would be to frame it off from liability for the IDA. I mean, I know you don't represent the IDA, but that's something we can look at. I don't know if it's advantageous per se.
Just a thought,
yeah.
Most structures are set for these specific pieces of real estate.
Yeah.
Didn't know if we could mirror that in, our not-for-profit sector here. But if you think,
I don't see there's anything prohibiting it, so.
Would that LLC need to comply with authorities budget office rules too?
I
Because
think it would need to apply to everything. It was just one other layer of, protection should something slip through the cracks.
Yeah,
So, we're isolated to that piece of property.
The
And
danger of creating a new LLC would be the authority budget office presumably would look at that as someone else that needs to file every year a parent
Right.
support, which they
That's-
love
They
to
wouldn't be a
do.
subsidiary of the IDA?
Well,
I think
there's some
there's-
court cases where,
Yeah.
we were involved in those court cases where this new LLC was created, and they said it wasn't a subsidiary, it's an affiliate, so it's not a subsidiary. But at the end of the day, they said you still have to make ABL filings, so.
Yeah.
Amy loves the.
One more at this point, right?
So it might be more trouble than it's worth.
Get back to work.
I mean, there wouldn't be a lot of transaction, you know, it's not very
To vet it
transactional.
out.
Yeah.
you know, talk
Yeah,
about
and
it.
Tom and I, we can talk about it, sure.
So, you know, if that's the best course, great. If not, you know, certainly understand, but
Yep.
let's at least pursue it and talk about it and, you know, because it's, you know, we do got a nice little balance sheet that would hate to have something stupid happen, right?
Right.
If we can prevent it for just a minimal amount of effort, let's do that. That would just be my comment.
Yes, sir.
No, we'll look into that,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Chairman, we'll report on that in the next meeting.
Okay, great, great. Any other,
Clayton?
We did have the expected operating costs for the site. We shared a spreadsheet. The total expected cost for the 3 years is about $60,000. Insurance, and right now it's estimated maintenance and security, which would probably be a lot less than we
that seems
expected.
reasonable. I mean, I just wanted to be sure we capture that in the budget. That's, you know, acknowledge there are some, you know, expenses. You don't get anything for free, right? Yeah.
Well, it will be reimbursable too from the
You
ACBDC.
know, we have that
Better yet.
Altech trust
Yeah.
fund to offset it, so we will reimburse whatever expenses the IDA has from the Altech trust fund. And Clayton, why don't you talk a little bit about the good news from National Grid?
We also got a result from National Grid that we asked for, a customer load assessment on how much power we could actually acquire and use on the site. And it came back as up to 60 megawatts of power, which is very, very generous. And the next question then becomes, how do we pull it off the transmission lines that actually run through the property, which is that means we have two, because we don't have worries about right of way. But with that number, we now take the next step to talk to National Grid about what that system would look like.
On some of the folks that you've been talking to, what is a minimum power requirement of, you know, a manufacturer?
Well, I talked to a couple of folks and they said, if you can't offer us 20,
Okay,
don't even,
yeah, all right, yeah, fair, fair, fair.
The big manufacturers, you know, are looking for transmission level power, so it's over 10 megawatts of power. These offshore wind guys that we were entertaining down at Port of Freeman's, you know, those guys were looking for 30, 40 megawatts of power, and this is, you know, certainly good news for us. But, Mr. Chairman, I would like to just for a moment introduce Sandy Mathis here. Sandy's early on did the site, the shovel-ready site assessment for the Alliance, and was crucial in identifying this piece of property here. And Sandy's had a lot of experience from his own, when he was running the IDA down in Greene County, but also, you know, Sandy's identified some potential sources of funding. You know, a substation here could be
$50 million.
right. But, you know, now, so just to stop the sticker shock on that, you know, Sandy, why don't you talk a little bit about potential funding sources?
Yeah, so first off, FAST New York has really two main funding streams. First is to get a site ready, which is up to about 500,000. That's for engineering, architectural, that kind of studies that you do for a seeker or a GEIS. Then you have track, they call it track 2, or maybe track 3. That's track 2. Track 3 is for infrastructure, water, sewer, power, fiber. And they'll regularly, if you've seen some of their prior, they'll do 25, 50 to $75 million allocations.
We got
You also-
$17 million for the Port of Freeman's out of that program.
Then you have charge up, I think is the new name of the 200 million additional in this budget that was just passed by the state, that's really targeting, the state has acknowledged Empire State Development. It's a big problem for them to have sites with real power. So you have that, but you also have members of the legislature are able to secure line item allocations for infrastructure. So I've never seen this kind of money before that the state throws at infrastructure and helping pay for the front cost. So it's a very good time to really advance a site like this.
Thank you.
Sure.
Clayton, anything else?
No, I think that's,
Any questions from the board? we'll keep reporting on this. This is a big deal. I know this is a, big responsibility for the IDA to take this on, so we'll keep this on the agenda for the
Perfect.
coming months and keep you guys apprised of how we make out. There are going to be decisions required along the way, not the least of which being, when the county legislature, and there's, I don't know, is that 2 month, 3 month?
Probably looking at least 2 months.
2 months, yeah. So when we get
I
that
asked,
point,
I couldn't get a number, so thank you for that.
Yeah, it's got, get you further committee and go to the committee and, so, yeah, a couple months.
Have we reached out to the assessor's office in the town of Colony or whatnot of the intention of this transaction? I mean, is this public notice at this point?
I don't know, Tom was talking to, Tom, did we talk to the county, the town assessor about this?
We did when we were thinking of the Alliance taking the property, but I'm not aware that we've reached back to him and told him that it was now, potentially going to the IDA. Again, it's presently still owned and titled by the private company that has not paid taxes year after year. And there's a judgment that the county can exercise and take title to, but that has not occurred yet. So no, we've not told the assessor that the IDA is a potential grantee.
Okay, that's a good question. Any other questions for?
Okay, so, in other business, I'd like to ask our colleague, Mr. Catalano, to talk a little bit about a project that you've approved preliminarily, and we're moving to final approval here.
Thank you. The name of the company is Ketamir, Inc. They will be the first semiconductor supply chain company that we are welcoming with open arms to Albany County. They work in a chemical space. They're looking at property at 6 British American Boulevard. Plug had some space in there. The new company, Ketamir, will be taking over the Plug space. There's also 3 or 4 other companies in the chemical/semiconductor space that they're looking to create a consortium. One of the owners is currently overseas right now, looking to bring other companies into this. And really what it's going to be is they're going to take it's just shy of 70,000 square foot building. Purchase price is $4.8 million. They're going to invest first year estimate is $12 million, including the purchase price of the building. All new HVAC, a little bit of clean room, that type of stuff, pave the parking lot, roof. So they're going to be making a big investment, and then they're going to start bringing in capital equipment. Our best estimates at this point, and we're waiting on a little bit of clarification from them, is potentially up to $85 million expenses, mostly on employees and equipment over the next 5 years. We don't know where that's going to land, but the number has increased since Kevin and I have started meeting with them. We approved we approved this application for a public hearing. We held the public hearing approximately 2 weeks ago. CJ Kemp from Ketamir's attorney, Kevin and I attended. It was nice. It was us and the stenographer, so nobody showed up with any questions, pro or con. But this will be our first step into the semiconductor supply chain, which, Kevin has talked about. We are not going to get a chip manufacturer. The supply chain is where Albany County is going to shine. And this is a really nice opportunity. Dr. Barry Arkels, who started the company, over 300 published articles to his name, over 150 patents to his name. Works very closely with silicone, actually had some patents for contact lenses. The companies that he has either started or was a major part of today currently has over $1 billion of revenue. He's no longer affiliated with them. He's had his exits, and this is his next project. He is, when you think about who's the smartest guy in the room, this guy's the smartest guy in the room.
Very good. I remember the discussion we had last meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad, the public hearing went fine. So what do we have, council?
Yes, thanks, Chair. So the first resolution is a seeker resolution, as just a reminder, before the IDA can approve entering the project documents, it has to make a determination of the State Environmental Quality Review Act. In this case, since they're not changing the footprint of the existing
Correct.
building, it's just a renovation of the existing building, we don't need to rely on a planning board determination or anything like that. It's a type 2 action under seeker, and so no further seeker determination would be required. That's the gist of the seeker resolution for you.
So we need to take a motion to approve that, so a motion. Need a second, all in favor? Opposed? So moved.
Very good. And the final resolution is the standard approving resolution authorizing the IDA to enter into these standard documents. Will be a part of this transaction, a pilot agreement, lease-back structure, nothing unusual in this one. Happy to answer any questions.
Other project benefits, sales tax, what are, could you maybe summarize the project?
Yeah, so it's, and I don't have the application from it, it's a sales tax exemption and real property tax exemption under a pilot. I'm not sure. Mortgage tax.
No mortgage tax exemption.
Right, so those would be the two out of three.
Because they bought the building outright, right?
Yeah, they paid cash for the
Yeah.
building.
And from the last meeting, there was a pilot scheduled to handle out. It's a 15-year pilot agreement.
Yeah, that's what we're working off of, yes.
Yes.
And we were gonna put together some type of, I believe, this, I don't know what you're looking at there, but a schedule showing what those payments were gonna be. You're gonna be reporting back to us on that, or?
That'll be cooked into the pilot agreement. I don't know if we
Yeah, we had that draft, and that's what we're working off of, and that's what we'll present to
I
the,
think it was like what they were paying and then what they're going to be
Yeah.
paying. I think
Yep.
we wanted to sort of spell that out so there's no, misunderstanding as to, what those payments would be on a go-forward basis.
correct,
And to show people that it's a net positive, if my memory serves
100%.
me correct,
Exactly.
as to what the net tax increase.
Yeah.
Just, for full disclosure, right?
Yep.
So with those stipulations, can we get a motion to move it?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Great.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your help. And thanks for moving Albany County.
no, Pennsylvania put up a fight.
Yes.
Pennsylvania put up a fight, so.
This was a competitive win for Albany County, and a good one.
Good. Thank you, appreciate it. Kevin, do we have anything else? Any other,
Nothing other from me, Mr. Chairman.
any other questions from the board or Kevin or?
We did close the Atlas Copco incentives on July 2nd. I believe that was funded. Thank you to Anton, board member Anton, and Deputy Chairwoman Wanda Willingham. We're at the groundbreaking. And the nice thing about the groundbreaking, Chairman, and to the board, you should all know this, they did that for their employees. That was not for show. That was not for television. They wanted to relay to their staff and to their people that it was a long 3-year process. A lot of you were included in it. Now's the time. Your futures here at this plant will be long and prosperous. Send your friends, send your family. We are growing, we are expanding. But I think Anton had some nice conversations. Wanda spoke with the president of Atlas Copco North America for probably 15 minutes. Very engaged. Antoinette, myself, and Clayton joined. It was a real nice day. So
Could you share what the neighbor comments were in the public hearing about the expansion?
they love them.
The next door neighbor is like, next door to a manufacturer is like, we love them, grow.
Yeah.
Like that shows you how good of a partner they are.
Good, good.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a growing company in your backyard.
Yes.
That's all good stuff.
And a good
Great corporate citizen.
corporate, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you. I hope you don't mind me jumping in.
All right. Any other comments, questions? We get a motion then to adjourn the meeting.
A motion.
Second, all in favor? Okay, so adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
No.
I would have been over on the 6 o'clock tip.
I know.
Yeah.